is interesting. He says another category of inappropriate behavior is the persistent belief that white ice is colder. Black America is conditioned by family, school, and all of the social institutions to believe that whites are inherently superior. Although there have always been blacks who tried to disabuse other blacks of this belief, their efforts had limited effect. The superior quality of the white man's ice remains a commonly accepted belief and expression in Black America. I am a witness. In the mid 1970s, I actually saw a real life display of this inappropriate mindset and behavior. Standing with a friend in front of his office building in Tallahassee, Florida, I saw a black man drive up to a black owned grocery store. He got out of his car and walked over to the ice machine. He picked up several bags of ice, examined them, put them back in the ice machine, then walked across the street to a white owned liquor store. There, he went to the ice machine and took out 2 bags of ice. He examined them, then went to the drive-through window to pay for them. My friend and I were so struck by the behavior that we asked him why he rejected the ice at the black store, but purchased the identical brand from the white-owned store. He said, quote, "I don't like Mr. Brown's ice. It's too lumpy. Jack's Liquor's ice is better," end quote. That day, I learned that not only was white ice colder, but apparently smoother, at least to one black man. Inappropriate behavior has become deeply rooted in the psyche of Black America's dialect type of reasoning. If whites touch it, make it, sell it, repair it, or talk about it, only then is it acceptable to blacks. But on an even deeper level, black inappropriate behavior seems to suggest that a significant number of blacks place more value on being alive than the conditions under which they live. Eradicating these self-deprecating habits and learned behavior or learned inappropriate behavior patterns begins with offering black people new information, new political and economic goals, new social psychological models, and new hope. So basically what Dr. Anderson is saying in this book is that ultimately we tend to follow behind white folks. I did an interview with EUR Web, and they picked their titles, right? And they picked a great title that I think was just so spot on in terms of what I was thinking. And basically it was Dr. Watkins says, stop following behind white folks. And I talked about that today. I talked when even things like Roe versus Wade and all that. It's okay to have whatever opinion you want as long as it's truly your opinion. I follow a lot of the commentators that are on CNN and all these other places. I've been on CNN hundreds of times. And one of the things I notice is that the black commentators tend to take the lead of the white commentators. Whatever the white folks decide is the topic to discuss, black people will discuss it. So if white people start talking about immigrants being separated from their families at the border, well, next thing you know, the black commentators are all upset about immigrants being separated from their families at the border. You know, if white folks talk about police brutality, well, suddenly the people on TV, the black folks start talking about police brutality. And the problem with that is that what happens then is that if there's a real issue going on, that issue gets completely ignored. I will stand up and I'll say, well, wait a minute. You do understand while you're talking about this one guy who got shot in some city, you do know that like 14 kids got murdered in Chicago last weekend, right? And there's no chatter, none at all. None at all. And it's really selective empathy. It's like I can really sit there and I can cry and be sad over one incident that's being replayed on just on repeat on CNN. I can be really sad about that. But you can also tweet, Dr. Watkins, to 130,000 people that 14 kids in the black community died last week, and nobody cares. No crickets. I mean, there's nothing but crickets. Right. So ultimately, what that means to me is that there are certain people who take lead in these conversations. And what I'm saying to you is I need y'all to take the lead in your own damn conversations. Stop letting other people decide what the topic of focus is going to be for black people, because when they get to decide what you're going to focus on, your community never gets fixed, because you're only able to fix the things that they decide are worth fixing at that moment. So this is what he's saying, that basically when white folks are doing it, talking about it or whatever, you follow them. And I just encourage you to kind of let that go. I don't care what conversation you want to have. Just have your own conversation. Let me keep going. He says the third impediment. This is the third impediment to power for black people. This is Powernomics, page 30. The third impediment is no plan for empowerment. My wife gave a speech this weekend in Detroit, and there were a lot of great people there. It was the One Africa Unity Summit. And Dr. Leonard Jeffries was there, and Professor James Small, Dr. Ken Harris, and Scheherazade Ali, Milena Karenga. So many smart people were there. And her presentation was interesting. It was on why empires crumble. And one of the things I noticed, and because I try to learn from my wife, I try to listen and learn and pay attention, and because sometimes we get to where we think we know everything, and I don't want to be that guy. And so I heard her talk about kingdoms crumbling because families can crumble. And I think that three things that she mentioned that you would need in order to maintain unity in a family or in a kingdom is respect. Like if I'm doing business with you or if I'm working with you, we have to respect each other. Or if I'm married to you, we got to have respect. Trust. If I don't trust you, I can't partner with you. And a lot of our people have a hard time trusting each other. And then the third part was a plan. You have to have a plan. So if you have respect and trust, and then you have a plan, then you can be successful. A lot of times there is no plan. I mention this. I'll say it a billion times. If you get married to somebody, or you think about dating a woman or dating a man, ask them what their plan is. And if they have no plan for their life, then their plan is probably to fail. They're going to be in the struggle. They're going to stress out and blank out like everybody else because they have no plan to succeed. And the same thing is true for the community. There must be a plan. So, for example, I give you guys the $5 a day investment plan because if I was able to convince 100,000 Black people to do a $5 a day investment plan and not sell their assets and put $5 a day in the stock market consistently without selling any assets, then you talk about Black wealth going up by $1 trillion in one generation. I'm talking about life-changing amounts of money where you've got 100,000 Black kids walking around with $250,000 in the bank or $200,000 in the bank, and it's a complete game changer. So ultimately, what is your plan, right? So let me keep going. So he says the third impediment is that there is no plan for empowerment. Through the years, Blacks and whites alike have called for Blacks to organize and help themselves rather than depending on whites. As early as the 1860s, Albion W. Tourgy, a visionary abolitionist, prophesied that neither the enactment of laws nor appeals to the majority society's conscience could reverse the tide of white racism or lift Black people. Tourgy, I hope maybe I'm mispronouncing his name. Maybe it's Tourge. It's Tourgee. Tourge believed that the solution to the nation's race problem rested in Blacks becoming more independent, exhibiting greater militancy and self-assertion. Tourge was so committed to those beliefs that even as a white man, oh, he was white, okay, he fought the conservative philosophies of Booker T. Washington, a Black man. Tourgy tried to convince Washington that Black Americans would never gain political and economic parity in America until they organized themselves and pursued a course toward economic justice. A century later, a national commitment to economic justice for Blacks still has not been made. Social integration and civil rights remain the foremost issues. That, remember the civil rights movement, right? That's when you traded in all your businesses and all your land for corporate jobs and student loans. Remember that? How's that working out for you? Is that, give me, I don't know, let me know. Is that working out? Is that, are you doing good? You're in good shape? You feel good about that? Yeah, I don't know. Let me know. How's that working out for us? Is that okay? Let me keep going. All right. So Black America needs a national. So he says Black America needs a national plan and knowledgeable, committed leadership to guide it toward group empowerment and economic justice. Powernomics is a national plan and requires institutional leadership to implement it. It is reverse social engineering. The sole purpose of Powernomics is to unleash the economic and political potential of Black America by addressing the historical, structural, economic inequalities between the races and the self-defeating, inappropriate behavior patterns of Black Americans. He says by the year 2005. Well, I mean, that's not going to happen. But still, why don't we say 2035? How about that? Set a new deadline. Let's see. Now that the need for empowerment has been established, the remaining chapters and appendices of this book explain the Powernomics plan and how to achieve Black empowerment. So now chapter 2 goes into the keys to Black empowerment. So Dr. Anderson says, the first chapter discussed how slavery generated racism. Oh, sorry. Actually, let me give you the quote here. There's a quote at the top. This is page 31 in the book Powernomics. The books are at powernomics.com, by the way. That's where you can get your own copy. He says, any race that loves the world and hates itself will eventually become its own oppressor. The first chapter discussed how slavery generated racism, which created race-based monopolies and vast wealth for whites. These race-based monopolies made whites the proverbial 900-pound gorilla and rendered Black Americans null and void as a competitive and productive group in the marketplaces. However, like any monopoly, white racial monopolies are not perfect. They can be beaten, but Blacks will need the right combination of skills, appropriate mindsets, clear direction, a sense of group self-interest, and a competitive group spirit in order to compete and win. When these attitudes are properly mixed with our group competitive advantages, we can begin to play real life Monopoly. In this chapter, we will learn about the keys and tools that can empower Black America and make it unified, self-directed, and economically stronger. Many will ask the questions: is it possible for Black America to transform itself into a state of economic and political competitiveness? Can modern Black America do what 18 previous generations of Blacks failed or were not allowed to do? In this chapter, you will find the answer to both questions is yes. It can be done, but it will not be easy. It will require Black Americans to make drastic behavior changes. We will have to overcome the primary impediments to Black empowerment, which are an historical wealth inequality between the races, our own learned inappropriate behavior, and a lack of a national plan. For those who are serious about building a new foundation of group wealth and political power, the first thing we must do is examine how we see, think, and behave regarding racial matters. This chapter will contain many technical concepts that are essential to understanding the action steps and principles recommended in later chapters. Now, on to page 32. Give me 1 second. Let me drink something. I always lose my voice in our book club meeting. It's y'all's fault. Y'all got me up here yelling. All right, I'm playing. All right, so let's see. So it says distorted perspectives. Our experiences give us our point of view. Like Alice in Wonderland, looking into the mirror, what we see is distorted. It is not reality. Yet we believe and perceive what we believe eventually controls how we behave. So he's saying what we believe and perceive is what we perceive as why can I not read this? What we perceive, we believe, and what we believe eventually controls how we behave. There we go. As Black people, we tend to see ourselves and the solutions to our predicament through the eyes of non-Blacks. We have done this for so long that we do not question whether or not our perceptions of reality are accurate. When we fail to challenge what we see and believe, we allow distorted views to lead to inappropriate behavior patterns. It is now time for us to correct the distortions by changing rather than keeping our perspective. So here's an example. This ridiculously insane idea that you can keep sending your kids to school to be educated by white people and that somehow that's going to help them become equal to white people is sheer lunacy. That is sheer insanity. And you see all the videos of what happens to our poor kids when they go to these schools. They come out of these schools blind, deaf, dumb, and crazy. Have them can't hardly read. 80% of the Black boys can't even do math on grade level. Coming out, ain't ready to compete. No skills, no nothing. Getting beat up at school, getting suspended and put in special ed, put on drugs. I mean, it's crazy, to just see what they do. I mean, so it's hilarious, right? That we are led to believe that somehow that the solution to educating Black children lies within letting white people do all the educating, and I don't believe that. I think that the best educator for your child is you. I can say this as a person who has, again, I have more education than 99% of the people that I meet. I have way too much education. I done read all these books and been to school for 1,000 years, and I can tell you, as a person who values education, who has a lot of it, the number one element that really drives the internalization of knowledge and information is actually emotional. The reason that you're the best educator for your child is because you love them. People don't internalize knowledge and information from people that have contempt toward them. My wife, I told you, my wife is a relationship therapist, and then I'm learning a lot. And also she's an expert on the subconscious mind. There's a really big book on the subconscious mind. She's been obsessed with it. She's read the book 3 times. I don't know why she's reading it 3 times, but she just does. And one of the things that she mentioned that was really fascinating to me was she said that she was talking about relationships, but this is true for any relationship, not just man, woman, husband, wife, and all that. This is like true for any relationship you have with any person, your teacher, your boss, your friend, your homeboy, whatever. She said that people that are in a relationship where the other partner has contempt for them, they're more likely to get sick, they're more likely to die. Did y'all know that literally when you're in a relationship, like you go to work every day with people that don't like you, that is physically killing you. They said that people who are married, so if you're married and your spouse hates you, you might want to consider getting out of that marriage because that contempt literally causes physical problems. They said people like that die earlier. There's something about being hated that makes you sick, right? So ain't nobody dislike more than black people. So when you send your child to be educated by those white folks every day who don't really like your kid, don't trust him, they kind of scared of him, they kind of mad at him or whatever, that contempt from that system is not good for his mental and physical health. So ultimately, I don't believe my theory. Again, just feel free to challenge it. Nothing I say is 100% guaranteed, and there's perspectives out here. But my belief is that what you're missing in that public school system is you're missing a system and educators who actually give a damn about the success of black children. I'm not saying that the teachers don't care, and I know that there's teachers in this room. Thank you for your service. I know what kind of hell you go through educating some of these kids. Some of them ain't got no damn home training. I respect you immensely, but y'all know what I'm talking about. You know what it looks like when you see that teacher who is there for the paycheck, and there's plenty of money to be made by pretending to educate black kids. And I would just say that that is the factor that matters, because at the end of the day, if I could, I don't know hardly anything about biology. But if my daughter needed to know biology and I was her biology teacher, I could make her very, very good at biology. And the reason is because, first of all, I could go on the internet and get all the biology information I need. And then number two, she would know that I love her. She would just feel good learning from me because she would say, I'm getting attention from a person who cares about me. Do you know that was my number one problem? I failed all through school. Now, Virgil, you're asking what's the title of the book. I don't even remember the title of the book. I'm sorry. I'll find out. I'll find out. When I find out, if she comes down to something, I'll yell it. She's in the other room, so I apologize. But really, I remember when I was in school and my grades were really bad, and everybody thought I was stupid because my grades were so terrible, but I wasn't. I just didn't like school and I hated it. You know what I really needed? I needed attention. I needed love. I didn't get any love. I didn't like these people don't like me. I don't like them. You're not receptive to information and knowledge when you're in it's almost like a confrontational situation. But do you know what happened? A couple times I can remember in my life, I didn't have a lot of people helping me with homework and little things like that. That was one of the areas of my childhood that I wish I could get back, right? But the couple of times where somebody sat down and just took the time to care that I learned it and taught me stuff, I excelled. I took off. Like, I kid you not, it happened one time in the seventh grade. And it wasn't even a black person, it wasn't even a relative. It was like some random white man. I don't even remember his name. But I went to this place called the East End Boys Club in Louisville, Kentucky. And I was in this boys club, and this white man, I don't know who the hell he was, he helped me with my homework. And I learned how to, and I was like, oh, okay, now I understand. And I felt so good for the first time in a while. I went to school excited about school because I had my homework done. I was ready, and I didn't go in with the anxiety that I would always feel for not being prepared. And I took the math test, and the teacher comes in, and I think maybe seventh grade or whatever. And they come in and they're like, who got the highest grade? And the teacher said, Boyce got the highest grade. And everybody's like, Boyce makes F's. How did Boyce get the highest grade? And they said, oh no, and Boyce didn't get the highest grade in this class. He got the highest score in the entire seventh grade. Like every single kid. I beat every kid. So it even blew me away. But the difference, honestly, when I look back on that, the difference was that kid was receiving the love and attention that he wasn't getting, from this prison on training wheels that the public school system has become. So pay attention now. You had schools. It was a Simmons College in Kentucky. Right after slavery, you had some ex-slaves who had a building and a couple of books and a lot of love, and they educated the hell out of some black kids. That's all you really need. So what I'm just saying to you in general is, I'm not saying take your kids out of school. I understand the reality of it. Maybe you can't because you got to go to work and all that stuff. But you should be involved in their educational process in a very structured and consistent way. Little conversations you have with them, watching YouTube videos with them, doing business projects with them. Maybe teach them little things that they need to know that's actually going to help them become successful. Because too many of our kids are coming out of these schools and they can't do nothing. How are you going to survive when you can't do nothing? Like, they got no skill, can't do anything. Can't even work at McDonald's and add up the total of the bill without looking at pictures of the food. Like, you gotta look at pictures of the food to know how to punch the numbers into the thing. Like and you're black, so you can't read the word Big Mac, right? Because they gotta show you a picture of a Big Mac, and you can't multiply and divide or add up. Right? You're done. You're toast. in this system. So don't make your kids toast. Don't just see it for what it is and understand it so you can find a different approach. Make a plan. That's it. Make a plan. All right, so let's keep going. Out of the box thinking. It has been said that the epitome of madness is to do the same thing over and over while fully expecting things to somehow change. We have spent centuries seeking civil rights and social acceptance while our conditions remain relatively fixed. As long as we continue to perceive and respond to our socioeconomic situation in the same old manner, we should expect to get the same old results. If we want different results or an improved lifestyle, we have to see, think, and act differently. Our national empowerment plan must be based on new collective out-of-the-box thinking. Every social, political, legal, and economic policy and practice that relates to Black people must be rethought so that we can find creative channels through which we can emerge as a competitive political and economic force. The following line dot puzzle illustrates what we mean by out-of-the-box thinking. The problem, okay, there is an image here. I'm not going to do this part. I'm going to save it for next time because I can't actually show you like what's on this page. So I'm going to scan it and bring it in next time. All right, so let me jump forward, and I just got to make a note to go back to this. All right, so he says following the majority. The premise of our social democracy set the stage for a majority population to dominate and direct. But these special rights and privileges for the majority come with some special obligations. According to the Federalist Papers, which promoted the ratification of the U.S. Constitution, the majority rules has an inherent obligation to address the needs and interests of its losing minority population. This obligation is emphasized when the nation has a planned permanent minority. Since the majority society has clearly failed to include the needs and interests of its Black minority population, and its interests are not reflected in the nation's laws, customs, and public policies, it is incumbent upon Black Americans not to blindly follow the majority society. The majority society's needs and interests cannot be placed above those of a Black minority. That means Black first. That means take care of yourself. Stop following behind everybody else and doing, you ain't white. You ain't white. Like, that's basic, but it's true. Like, so this idea of saying that we're going to put ourselves first, and this radical idea of Black people putting Black people at the top of our priority list, this is what Dr. Anderson's saying. That's where the whole B1 philosophy came from. It was like, okay, Dr. Anderson, Powernomics, okay, we got to prioritize ourselves. That's how we can get this done. Okay, you got to prioritize yourself. So let me keep going. So reading on, he says, the majority society's needs and interests cannot be placed above those of a Black minority. Playing to win as a team means Black America ought to set its own course rather than continuing to follow a game plan contrary to its own best interest. When a group is in last place within a society, if it continues to follow the pack, it will remain in last place. So if you keep following these out of place, out of whack, last place Negroes, then you're going to be right there in the back of the pack with them. So what is your plan? Black people, what is your plan? How are you going to make sure your kids are not like their kids? How are you going to make sure your life is not like their life? How are you going to make sure your outcomes differ from their outcomes? What is your plan? And it has to be your plan, because if it's Master's plan, Master already has a plan for you, and he's been teaching it to you since you were a baby, and it's the plan to keep you exactly where you are. So I don't follow Master's plan. I break Master's rules every opportunity I get. I break the rules because I know it's like sometimes you don't even know which rule is screwing you the worst. So you're like, I'm breaking all the rules. I'm getting completely out of the game because I don't even know. I get it. Your game is so complex that I can't quite, maybe I can't figure it all out. So how about I just walk out, take my ball, and go home? I'm not playing one more second in this rigged game. I'm going to go create another game, because in that game, I know what the rules are. I know what that plan is. That plan comes from me. So what is your plan? You must have a plan. So let me keep going. Playing the game of follow the leader calls to mind a sled team of dogs. Only the lead dog determines direction and sees a changing view. The hind dogs see only the rear end of the dog that is ahead. As long as they stay in their harness and follow the line, the hind dogs will never see where the sled is heading or be able to change direction. The dogs locked in the rear guarantee that the lead dog will arrive first and get the praise and the comfort of knowing that he is still leading. The hind dog only gets the satisfaction of knowing that what he sees every day will never change. You always looking up another dog's butt. As we shift into an empowerment mode, we are shifting from the perspective of the hind dog to the mindset of the lead dog who can choose a new way. As we wriggle out of the harness and outside the box, it must always be clear that we will no longer have to follow the lead of majority society. So stop looking up white folks' asses. So that's what he's saying. I went to Alaska. I rode a dog sled. It's quite fascinating. Those dogs are really well trained. And that is true. Exactly what he's saying is true. The lead dog is selected in a certain capacity because he knows the trail. He knows how to follow orders. He's a little bit older and wiser and smarter, right? And the other dogs just follow the lead dog. So black people, I need y'all to be the lead dog on your sled, or whoever is leading you is going to lead you right off a cliff. So get your nose out of other people's butts and learn how to be the dang leader. That's what you're meant to be. Why in the world would you follow the leader in a society that is clearly crumbling, that's falling apart? I can't begin to name all the things about this Eurocentric society that deeply concern me. They pretty much like made masculinity a crime, right? Like a masculine male is just a bad person just because he's a masculine male. The food that they serve you is food that is designed to kill you because the FDA is all about the money. Your whole damn pharmaceutical industry is completely rigged and controlled by people that care more about money than human life. Your government has $30 trillion in debt, an amount that is highly unsustainable. After 1952, the debt, what they call the debt to GDP ratio, GDP is like your income. The debt to income ratio of this country in 1952 was about 52%. In 2022, the debt to income ratio is 128%. These sons of bitches are crazy. They are ridiculous. They don't know what they're doing. They are destroying this country. I'm saying you might want to prepare your kids to build a life raft. I'm telling my kids, you better learn Chinese, learn Chinese and Spanish, and make sure you're a global citizen so that you can get the hell up out of here when chickens come home to roost. I haven't even talked about what they're doing to the environment. I haven't talked about what they're doing to the American family. And I could just keep going on and on and on. And so ultimately you're gonna have to shape your own culture with your own value systems. And in fact, when you start building your businesses, please don't become capitalists. I hear people use that term. They say, oh, black capitalism, you're a black capitalist. No, don't become a capitalist, because capitalism's not healthy. Be a person that respects free enterprise. Be a person that respects business ownership. Capitalism is a dirty, nasty, kind of insensitive beast. Capitalism doesn't care anything about poor people. Capitalism doesn't care anything about people's health or well-being. Capitalism doesn't care about anything in terms of cooperation. It's all competition. It's all take. Capitalism is what makes our government go declare war on countries that have never done anything to them just so they can go get their oil. Right. So you gotta really design your own pathway. And this starts, in my view, with us educating our own kids. And I get it. If you don't know everything you want to know, that's okay. You don't have to be a genius to be up in here. Just trust me enough to say, put me in front of your kids. I'll educate your kids. Let your kids come to book club. I'll read the book to them paragraph by paragraph. Right. I can tell you this stuff that you're learning here is 10 times better than anything they're learning in school. So let me keep going. Let me keep reading. Here. All right. The empowerment mode. I'm gonna read this chapter, and then that'll be it for this week. Okay. And by the way, don't forget, my website's boycewatkins.com. If you want to come to the event in Chicago, you can go to boycewatkins.com, click on events. My wife and I will be there. The event is about generational legacy, generational wealth, mixing family along with lots of wealth information, things like that. But it's adults only. Because we kind of want the adults to mix and mingle too. You don't have to be single, of course, but if you are single, it'd be a good place to meet other B1 type people that you can relate to. But if you're not single, it's good for networking, right? So, but it's adults only. So don't bring your kids. Bring your kids to the book club. Don't bring your kids to the event in Chicago on the 15th. But we have other events. So if you go to boycewatkins.com, click on events, you'll see the other events like the convention. Also, if you want to check out the financial workbooks, I mentioned to you guys earlier. I mentioned it again. You can go to financialworkbooks.com. They're good for kids, and you can take a look and check them out. So financialworkbooks.com. All right, so let me read here. This is called the empowerment mode. Empowerment is too frequently used interchangeably with motivation, but the two words are very different. Yeah, that's interesting. Empowerment versus motivation. So let's meditate on that for a moment. Okay, I'm underlining this. So empowerment versus motivation. He says motivating blacks or any other group is little more than getting them interested, creating excitement, and making them feel good. Right? You know that people motivating, go to church, jumping up and down, right? For instance, blacks as a group can be motivated to travel and see the world. But if they lack the money, time, and other resources, they are little more than motivated blacks who cannot leave home. Empowerment does not simply stimulate interest in travel, it also inspires confidence. And most importantly, it provides the tools and other needed resources necessary to accomplish the goals. Okay, so you can be motivated but not empowered. So I'm motivated to go and travel or to start a business or whatever. But maybe because I lack the resources, right? Or maybe I lack the capital or I lack the skill, right? Then I'm not necessarily empowered. And another aspect of that is also discipline. Discipline is important as well. Motivation kind of gets you started, gets you going. It's the discipline that keeps you going when you're not motivated anymore. Right. So discipline is also what gives you the ability to engage in the most golden asset that you'll ever have in your life, the asset that makes you the greatest investor ever, which is delayed gratification. I talk to you guys about investing all the time. All investing is delayed gratification. It means I'm going to sacrifice now so I can have more later. I can tell you as a person who does a lot of analyzing of society is that you have a society that does not support or promote discipline. It does not promote delayed gratification. It promotes instant gratification. That's why a lot of young people have an attention span that can only last for 3 or 4 minutes. So kids that tend to do well are kids that can stay focused and make a sacrifice so they can have more later. I'm really glad, for example, our youngest daughter is in dance. And my wife was showing me some studies about how the kids can't pay attention and they can't stick to anything. And she said that being in dance helps her a lot because you have to stay focused. You got to stay on beat. You go off stage, you got to be ready to go right back out at the right time. And you have to be well coordinated, right? So just that ability to stay focused, get your child in something that requires them to focus because that gives them that ability to stay disciplined and to achieve a goal, and also teach them to do something that requires sacrifice. So sports are good for kids too, because sports is all about sacrifice. If you want to win a championship in the fall, you practice hard in the spring, right? If you want to beat the guy on the track, you got to work out harder than this other person in practice, right? So all these little things are really important. Most of what I learned in my life that taught me to be successful was not stuff I learned in a classroom. It was the value system that came from understanding delayed gratification, things I practiced when I did sports. And also, but this came from my family. This came from my household. My household was built on a lot of personal accountability, personal responsibility, a cause and effect, simple logic to say, if you don't sacrifice for it, you'll never get it. If you want more, you got to give more. If you didn't get what you want, it's because you didn't want it bad enough and you didn't make the sacrifice. So the question is always, in my view, when you're talking about wanting something or your kids wanting something, is ask them, well, what are you willing to sacrifice to have the thing that you want? And a lot of people don't get what they want because they don't want to sacrifice for it. They kind of want to be quick and easy. I want it to come right away. So I don't want to sacrifice any time, and I want it to be easy. So I don't want any effort or any time, but I want the world. Well, that's a sucker's move. That makes you a loser. You're not going to succeed ever at anything if you think that's the formula for success. No, that's not going to get you anywhere. All right. So he talks about empowerment, or sorry, he talks about motivation. Like, woo, I'm hyped. Like I went to a seminar and I'm excited. I'm pumped up. Woo, I'm motivated. Yeah, that's easy. Anybody can do that. You get that in church every Sunday. That's important, but it's temporary, right? Then he talks about empowerment, the ability to actually get it done. I want it and I desire it, but I'm not empowered because I don't have the resources, right? Or the know-how, right? But then the discipline builds that bridge. People that tend to get motivated and then also execute with discipline, they tend to become very empowered, right? Like, so there are things that I can do in my life right now that I am empowered to do Because I had discipline, and the discipline started with motivation. It started with motivation and having a sense of purpose, and saying I'm going to work every single day, 10 hours a day for years to get to the point where I'm empowered to do what I want to do. All right. In fact, when I was in graduate school, I remember my mother, when people were making fun of me for being in school for so long, I told my mother, I said, I think my philosophy on life is I want to spend a few years living like nobody else will, so I can spend the rest of my life living like nobody else can. And that's all that is delayed gratification. That's just an investment decision. That's saying I'm sacrificing something now so I can have more later on. That's the formula for success. So let's keep going. Empowerment does not simply stimulate interest in travel, it inspires confidence and provides the tools. We talked about that. Let's see. Without the benefit of empowerment tools such as money, transportation, hotels, passports, and other personal necessities, it is highly unlikely that motivated blacks will be doing any traveling. Motivational and inspirational speakers, workshops, and books are designed primarily to make people feel good. However, black people have been in a socioeconomic ditch for centuries. Rather than motivating them to feel good about themselves while they remain in the ditch, they need the confidence and resources to get out. And that's true. There's a whole $1 trillion industry of making black people feel good about living in miserable, horrific conditions. That's what all the churches are on your corner. I went running through West Atlanta with my wife one time. We were running to my grandmother's grave. My grandmother's buried in Atlanta. And I found out where her graveyard was on the map, and I Googled it, and I didn't realize it was 6 miles away, which was in out and back, which means I had to run 12 miles. But I wanted to run 12 miles to see my grandma because I miss her and I love her so much. But anyway, so I'm running through West Atlanta, and I didn't know I was in the hood. I was really in the hood. We didn't know it. And I would see people that would drive by and they'd be like, "Hey, Dr. Boyce," and I'm just like trudging along, my little chubby self, trying my best to huffing and puffing, right? And then some guy said, "Whoa, Dr. Boyce, you running in West Atlanta, woo?" And I'm like, what's wrong with me running in West? What's the big deal about me being in West Atlanta? And so I'm running through West Atlanta and I'm seeing like all these buildings that are torn apart, like don't even look like places that people should be living. I saw a grocery store that was completely abandoned, and I saw a bunch of brothers just sitting on the front of the grocery store drinking and talking. And then I would see, so every now and then I see something that shows a sign of some sort of prosperity. I went to a store to get some Gatorade, and it was run by some Arab guy behind the cage who took my money, and looks like he didn't live there. And then I saw a new construction site where something was being built. Every single worker on the construction site was not black, and it was right across the street from all the black men who were just sitting on the corner that didn't have nowhere to go. And then I went by and I saw the prettiest building on this church. It was a beautiful, majestic, well lit building. It looked like it cost $1 million or more to build, and that was the church. The church was shining right next to all the despair, and the contrast was extraordinary. The contrast was amazing to see this big, beautiful church in the middle of all of this economic despair, which tells me that to some extent, sometimes some of the churches, not all of them, I'm not here to talk bad about the black church because I don't believe that all black churches are the same. I think that the black church is a bastion of hope and possibility for the black community when it's used in the right way. So this is not a diss on the black church, but some of the black churches have become emotional crack houses. They become emotional crack houses. They're places where you go so that because your life is so miserable and terrible, you go there, you give your pastor your last couple of dollars, and he gives you a show that makes you feel good about going home in the middle of the mess and the chaos that's all around you. So think about this. Why, and then think why, if I'm in a horrible lifestyle, why actually go and do all the work to get out of that situation? Why not just smoke something or drink something that's going to make it all go away? So that's one of the reasons why you see lots of addictions emerge in these desperate, challenging conditions. It's not so much the fault of the people that are in those situations. That's life. And I totally get it. But at the same time, I would encourage you to really sort of observe this and also be willing for whatever matters to you to do the work necessary to truly empower yourself to get out of that situation. So it doesn't mean you don't go to church. Maybe going to church can give you that boost of inspiration and everything else, to feel better. But when they get to that part where they say, just keep doing what you're doing and the Lord's going to provide, well, that's the part where you have to come in and say, no, I got my own plan. No, God provided me with opportunity to go and do certain things for myself. So I will take this inspiration. I'm going to take it home, and I'm going to use this inspiration to put a rocket booster in my personal empowerment plan. You must have a plan that is going to empower you, that's going to empower your family. It's your job. Ain't nobody else going to do it. We know white folks ain't going to do it. Other black people ain't going to do it. You got to do it. Okay. So let me keep going. Let me read a little bit more, and then we'll be done for tonight. He says, so thus we must begin our self-empowerment by obtaining both confidence and the tools. We need tools that give us a clear group direction and sense of togetherness. We need tools that prepare and guide us to evaluate and formulate our best interests. Our tools must always remind us of who and where we are. We are a very special people with a unique history. Therefore, rather than seeing race matters through the traditional rose-colored glasses, we must begin our solutions by looking realistically through race-colored glasses. The rest of this chapter offers Black Americans these new glasses in the context of the Powernomics National Plan. The 4 Powernomics empowerment tools for Black America are: 1, an empowerment culture; 2, a group vision; 3, a paradigm of ethno-aggregation; and 4, the paradigm of vertical integration. That's what we're going to start on next week. The remainder of this book will explain the need for these tools and show how Black America can best use them. So I'm going to put a mark right here because that's where we're going to start next week. I'm going to mark it and put the date so I remember, because sometimes I forget stuff. And so let's go through those 4 things again so we can know what we're going to learn about next week. 1, an empowerment culture. I told you culture is everything. Culture matters more than education. Professor James Small was on my platform last week, and I love this man, brilliant man. And he was explaining the importance of culture, because culture gives you your value system. If I have the wrong value system, it doesn't matter how many resources you give me. If my value system and my culture tells me I'm supposed to throw my money away, then that means you give me $10 million. I'm going to throw away 10 million and one. Culture, 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 culture. Your danger in your community is that much of your culture is being shaped by people who care nothing about you, who want to exploit you, and who want to harm you. You don't let other people define your culture. My shout out to my parents. I got to give it to them. In our household, our culture was different. Do you understand? When I was a kid, I might have said this, and I got to say it again because it's relevant to this conversation. Almost every single kid that I played with as a kid ended up in jail, unemployed, on dope. I kid you not. I go back and I was like, okay, yeah, he got locked up. Oh, he's on drugs. I can't even talk to him no more. Oh, well, yeah, his life. I wouldn't want to live his life. And I was sitting there and I was like, how in the hell did we grow up in the middle of all this? And my sister is a medical doctor. My brother went to Cornell, and I became a PhD. What was going on? And what it was, I kid you not, it was the culture. My daddy was a Black man who did not give a shit what you thought. He didn't care. He didn't care if the whole world hated his guts. He was the one that decided how things were going to go up in his house. Some of y'all got fathers like that. Shout out to those fathers who know who the hell they are. Excuse my French for cussing. Please forgive me for that. But it's relevant. My mother also was just a person who just thought a little bit different from her friends. So what happened was that she shaped a culture and my father did as well. They just had a culture in their house that was just like different. There was nobody else I knew that had a household that was run the same way ours was. And people thought it was weird. They'd be like, oh, you're too hard on those kids. Or, oh, you should let him come out and play. And my mother would be like, no, he's grounded for 2 more weeks. Or just little things like that. Or little things they would just tell us about life. And I thought everybody saw the world that way. And it turned out that they didn't. And I didn't understand it. Like my mother would make me, when I was 12 and 13 years old, she would, like, I started paying rent when I was 13. That's abusive, right? That's crazy. But I gained like a sense of responsibility at the age of 13. I got used to paying bills at 13. That's crazy. That's sick. I don't even make my own kids pay bills at 13. But that was like one little example of just little things they did that were different. And what I realized when I look back on that is they were shaping a culture that allowed us to just go into the world and just have our way. We were so far ahead of all the competition and able to get things done that other people couldn't. So some of y'all got that going on already, and I want to just encourage you because it wasn't easy. My mother used to get it all the time. You know how other people can be when they see you doing something different. They were hard on her. They made fun of her. They kind of attacked her. And she just held firm with that, and so did my father. My father didn't. He just never gave a shit. My mother, it would kind of hurt her feelings a little bit, but she still stuck to her guns. And I'm telling you, stick to your guns. My mother would go to the school, and she would fight those teachers because the teachers wanted to put me in special ed and put me on medication. And she's like, "No, you're not putting my son on medication. That's not going to happen." And I'm not saying that some people don't need medication. I'm not here to tell you what to do with medication. This is not medical advice. But I didn't need no medication. I'm a little weird. I probably do have ADHD. My attention span is not as long as it needs to be. I gotta slap myself and make myself focus. But at the end of the day, my mother knew best and she protected me. And some of y'all are protecting your kids right now. So keep doing that. That's what I'm saying. Keep protecting your family, keep protecting your culture. Know that just understand what you are up against. The more you really excel, the more you succeed, the more on point you become, the more you're going to have people that just are not going to understand anything about what you're doing and how you're doing it or why. So what you got to do, in my view, is number one, stick to your guns. Number two, find other people in your space that are going to support what you're doing and how you're doing it. Maybe I'm one of those people. I'm happy to be one of those people for you. But find other people in your space that think the same way. Because I can tell you, if you're educating your kids and you're investing for your kids and teaching them economic principles when they're a baby, your child's going to be a damn superstar. They're going to blow away the competition. So that's all I want to say. That's it. I'm not going to say anything else. My wife made some good food today, so I'm going to go and eat dinner. And I hope that this was a helpful discussion. I hope that we all gained something tonight. Next week, Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern, we have book club every week. And at some point, I'll probably send you guys an email because I'd like to get some feedback in terms of how we shape things at the All Black National Convention. I hope you will consider coming. If you haven't thought about coming, just go to boycewatkins.com, click on events, and then look for the convention and just take a look. It's going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, October 28th through October 30th at the Charlotte Downtown Hotel. There is a link if you want to be a vendor. If you have a business and you want to sell stuff there are plenty of people there that all want to buy black. People go there, they make tons of money. J Ortiz made thousands of dollars there. So people make money there. Also, if you want to be a sponsor, we have great advertising. My whole platform becomes available to you. Well, I will market your product. So if you have it like that and you have a great business, we can definitely use sponsors because we can't take money from everybody. We're not taking money from major corporations, none of that stuff. Again, with the flashcards, if you want to take a look at the flashcards for kids, the flashcards are out of stock. Sorry about that. No, my bad. The flashcards have been sold out. But if you want to take a look at the financial workbooks, the workbooks are available. You can go to financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. All right, everybody. Please have a good night. Thank you for listening. This has been fun. And I love you very, very much. To the world, to the moon and back. And I'll see you guys next week. Take care now. Bye-bye.